Wherever you are, there are always different types of wormholes to other places. Brindley Place.
Doctor Who.
London.
Padstow.
Vancouver.
Exeter Quay.
Istanbul.
Cardiff Bay, a recent product of regeneration attracting people to its newly renovated waterfront area and growing businesses. The former dockland was once crawling with sailors and shipbuilders, known for its few bars and infamous for the female escorts that could be found on the street corners, as remembered by a man whom had lived in Cardiff Bay for 25 years.
There were very rough pubs here.
Yeah.
There were prostitutes here.
Okay.
It was a very, very. I mean, a lot of people in Cardiff would say it was called the Docks then, rather than Cardiff Bay.
To anyone, regeneration was the best and only option for the area if it wished to grow economically, and that it did. The bay is now booming with people coming down to eat at the many restaurants and bars by the sea. Admittedly, the area is probably looking the best it's looked in years, but I can't help but be reminded of a similar seaside area back home. The former army barracks and fishing village in Hong Kong, Stanley. Similar to Cardiff Bay, it was in need of regeneration, and after a decade-long redevelopment project in the area, it was finally unveiled to the public. Buildings with fresh coats of paint, the roads along the water pedestrianized, palm trees dotted on the beachfront, basically looking the best it had in a while. However, the regeneration saw the closure of many small daipaidongs and locally owned businesses to make way for larger chains, McDonald's, Starbucks, Wildfire, and Pizza Express. Ironically, Pizza Express can now also be found just over 6,000 miles away in Cardiff Bay. Although the regeneration in the Bay Area has done wonders to it and made it a far more attractive place to be, it too is now starting to be consumed by chains Tesco's, Nando's, Café Rouge, and many others. The local tradition of both areas is being consumed by TNCs and forgotten by the public. It is becoming increasingly clear that changes need to be made to the way areas are being regenerated so that local businesses are preserved and TNCs are prevented from walking all over these small companies. I admit that I do enjoy going down to the bay for the fresh ocean air and just because it is unlike the Cardiff city centre. But at the same time, I always end up taking a trip through a wormhole to Stanley, and unfortunately not because of fond memories, but because of what I think is a growing problem, the increasing globalization taking place across the world. Many local traditional cultures are being overrun by a single culture of multinational corporations. I can't help but wonder, when does regeneration stop and globalization begin?
Hannah, look at all these commercial chains. I bet it was totally different 20 years ago, with every person making a living for themselves. They've totally ruined this place.
Actually, I think it's quite nice down here. It really reminds me when I went to Dubai last summer. Fair enough, there is loads of commercial change, but I think the bay still has quite a nice character about it. When I think of Cardiff Bay, I firstly think of all the lovely restaurants by the sea, but as my eyes wander across the bay, they are drawn towards the St David's Hotel, jutting out into the water. With the sun shining, I could be anywhere in the world, but this scene takes us to Jumeirah Beach in Dubai, where the prestigious Burj Al Arab Hotel looks like it's rising out of the sea. I don't know why, but for some reason the two hotels look similar to me. I think it must be to do with the cars and the nautical look they both have. Thinking about it more closely, Cardiff Bay and Dubai have many similarities despite the vast differences there are in scale. Not only are they both developments on the seafront, both locations have been built relatively recently with an abundance of contemporary architecture on display. The use of space also has overlaps. Most notable is the integration of business and relaxation, which has clearly been planned in order to make it a social hub of the city. Both Cardiff Bay and Jumeirah Beach are areas that people gather for relaxation, despite there being a constant buzz about the place. It is due to these similarities similarities that for me, Cardiff Bay is a wormhole to Jumeirah Beach.
Cardiff Bay to me is much more than a tourist attraction, where a handful of multinational businesses have clustered. And being brought up in the picturesque seaside town of Aberaeron, water has been an important aspect of my upbringing. If I ever feel down, I will wander down here for an afternoon as an escapism from the hustle and bustle of Cardiff city centre. Here I can reminisce of my times as a child, splashing in the sea, eating ice cream while taking a stroll along on Aberaeron's harbour wall, which can similarly do here by eating Cadwell's ice cream, with the breeze of the wind blowing against my face. The bay personally is a tranquil, unique place with spectacular architecture and historical landmarks, each with their own story to tell, from the modern Millennium Centre to the nautical-looking rope knots, which link the past with the present. Aberaeron, once a major port in Cardiff Bay, is now a little tourist town full of character, similar to the former docks, which was renowned for its coal industry, but has since experienced redevelopment. Being a Welsh person, culture is important to me, and the quaint shops in and around the bay, including pethau bychan and fabulous Welsh cakes, remind me of the little Welsh shops at home and of the times spent baking Welsh cakes with my nan when growing up. In addition, the bilingual side creates a feeling of happiness, as not in many places in the world can I take note of directions in my first language. There is a relaxing feel here, which is why it evokes an inner emotion in me, and justifies that there is such a thing as a sense of belonging. To me, Cardiff Bay reminds me of the person I am, and what is important to me as a person.
Along with these personal wormholes that can be found within the bay, there are certain areas that have not succumbed to the commercialisation that has occurred on the waterfront. Mountstuart Square is one such place that is not saturated with restaurants and coffee shops belonging to multinational chain brands. This is one area which has, with the exception of one contemporary apartment block, retained its character, and traces of the old docks, or Tiger Bay as it was familiarly known by its residents, can be found. Centrepiece of the square is the Coal Exchange, which was once the hub of Cardiff's economic activity, and where in 1909 the first ever £1 million cheque was cashed. Today, the use of the Coal Exchange has changed, and it is sometimes used for small music concerts and other entertainment purposes. However, the building is listed and the outside remains the same. Some argue that the building is an eyesore due to its dilapidated condition. As Peter Finch states, the centrepiece, the once mighty Coal Exchange, which in 1886 had more than 1,500 members running around in hats, spats and cigars, now moulders. For most of the time, until redevelopment takes hold, a smart office refurb and ready conference facility come back on stream, the building sleeps, the tired Levithian. Old newspapers blow across its frontage, rain dirt collects on its windowsills. However, despite this, it remains an important legacy to Cardiff Bay's rich history. In this area of the bay you won't find any Nando's, Starbucks or Tesco's. Rather, the businesses located here tend to be small, independent and local. The square is home to many design companies or artist studios, along with a few independent bars. The area has not become a characterless corporate zone like other parts of the city that have been regenerated and remains a unique place. For instance, the streetlights of the area are not tall and grey like many others in the city. The streetlights here are black cast iron which combine with the grand buildings to keep the Victorian character of the square alive. The Old Parish of St. Stephen still occupies the square. It was once a music venue known as the Point, but today lies empty. Despite this, it remains a throwback to life in the old Cardiff Bay. Although the use of the buildings in the square has changed, the outside has remained largely the same. The area is rich in history and one of the few remaining areas of Cardiff that has not become characterless. Walking along the waterfront, one could be anywhere in the world. The restaurants, bars and cafes are the same chains you would find wherever you happen to be. However, on Mountstuart Square, thanks to buildings such as the Coal Exchange and the Bute Dock Hotel on West Bute Street, you know you are in Cardiff. It is easy to imagine you are walking through the old docks, and this is why, for me, this area is far more interesting than the main attraction tourists flock to, the waterfront.